Hey, freshmen, here I am coming at you from somewhere between the head and the heart. Today, we're going to be talking about theme versus subject and what exactly it means when we ask you to write a theme and how we don't want you to write a subject. So, when we ask you in the upcoming weeks to talk about theme, what we want you to talk about is the heart of what the author is writing about. If we ever ask you about subject, what we want you to talk about is the head of what the author is writing about. So here's what that means. The head is the topic. It is the brain knowledge. It is usually just one word and it is not emotionally charged at all. So it's just that word that's coming out of their head. So it could be something like friendship or love or family or war. These are topics. They're usually just one word when they're coming out of the author's head because it's that initial generation of an idea that is coming out of the author's brain. So it's just that one word, that simple topic. Now, the theme is where the head goes to the heart, and that subject that comes out of the brain goes straight to the feelings and the emotions of the author who is writing it. So, what we're looking for when we ask you for the theme is not the head, but the heart of what the author is talking about. So, it's asking for the topic and saying, how do they feel about that topic? It's typically more than one word because have you ever talked to somebody who's emotional about something? They're spewing words out at you and they're crying or they're screaming and yelling because emotion is hard to communicate with one single word, especially if you're an author and you like words a lot, which most of them do. So, how does that author feel about the topic or the subject that they're writing about? That's the theme. It's usually more than one word because it's hard to get emotions across in just one singular word. We want more than one word when we ask you for the theme, and we want you to be looking into the heart of the author and what they are talking about in their work. So when we're asking you for theme, that's what we're asking for. I'm going to give you a couple of very quick examples right now. All right, so I promised some examples, and here they are. You're just going to have to use your imaginations and pretend that I am an author. And I am an author who just had the idea of fate as a subject to pop into my head. And so, as an author, fate went from my head to my heart, and my heart said, a person has the power to change their own fate. All right, so here's another one. This one is love. And so imagine I am the author and the word love has just popped into my head, and I said, oh, that would be a good subject. What would my theme be? Well, let's ask the heart. So I go up to the heart and I say, heart, what do you think about this subject of love? And my heart as the author, my individual heart as the author says, love is a painful, difficult, and worthwhile part of the human experience. Now, what I want you to notice is this may not be the case for everybody. Maybe not everybody thinks that love is painful and difficult. Maybe that really caring, perfect person in your life, like your grandmother or your mom, will say, no, love is so easy. It's easy for me to love everybody. That would be their theme because that would be their heart telling them. This is not always applicable to everyone, but everybody can find something about it that they can relate to in most cases with theme. So love is painful, difficult, and worthwhile. Yeah, that's what I say as an author, but what will someone else say? So sometimes when you're looking for theme as a reader and not writing theme as a writer, it's important to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Think, what would this author think about this subject, and what is this book that they wrote saying about the subject from their heart, not mine? So sometimes it's important to take yourself out of your shoes and your heart and your head and put yourself into somebody else's. Anything. I want to teach you about one more thing. It's called universal theme. And these are themes that come up over and over and over again. So don't think about it like a subject, like head knowledge. This is heart knowledge. This is the theme that comes from the heart. But these are the categories under which certain themes can fall. So we talked about love being a painful, difficult, and worthwhile part of the human experience. Well, that could be considered the universal theme of individual versus individual. And this theme is really special because it talks about how you can have conflicts between two people. Now, you can also have something that is called individual versus society. This is a big conflict of lots of people, and it's lots of people versus one little person. This is really important because this is something that authors love to write about. So you'll see a big heart theme fall under the category of individual versus society. Another one that you might see is individual versus self. Now that could be something maybe along the lines of fate, where you're thinking about your own fate, and that big theme that we talked about with fate, that a person can change their fate, that heart theme applies to this big category that all kinds of themes can fall underneath. So that would be individual versus self. Another example of individual versus self is when maybe a person is fighting against their own body. You're fighting against the way that you are. And a lot of times these stories are really fantastic for examining ourselves and the way that we think about ourselves. So when you're looking for that type of a theme, think about this big umbrella that those things can fall underneath. Our last big, huge, universal theme that these heart knowledge pieces fall under is individual versus nature. So this is super important because the individual versus nature comes up a lot throughout your time as a reader. It just is something that authors love to write about. The individual gets lost in nature. The individual is challenged by something in the world around him. This is a really great example of a huge universal truth that lots of themes will fall underneath. And the big thing to remember about all of these universal themes is that they are really special because they apply to the human race. These are things that everybody is going to experience at one time or another in their lives. And that's why it's important to think of these as big umbrella covers that will eventually, the themes that you find in the books that you're reading are going to fall under these different things. So look at it in that way, and this is going to be one really good way for you to think about theme as we go forward. Okay, guys, go ahead and move on to your Google Classroom stuff. Get to work.